follow the directions and honor our ancestors and the elementals and the spirits that always assist us in this space and around the world. So for that, I'm going to stand, and you can stand if you'd like. And so we take a moment to honor our ancestors in the place of norm, grounding. When we think of our ancestors and grounding, we think of trees, we think of things to come in regards to spring as well. So we welcome and we honor that direction, those ancestors, the place from which we came from, and the place from which we are going. We also take a moment to honor the lessons and the blessings of the East, place of inspiration. This is where our winged ones are, where they take our prayers, our wishes, our desires up to the heavens on the wings of a bird. We take a moment to honor that place of air and inspiration, new beginnings and the known. We look to the south, place of healing, transformation, fire, energy. Sometimes it's hard to find the energy that we need in the depths of winter to get us through the things that are in front of us. And so we look to the south to fuel that for us. We take a moment to acknowledge west, setting sun, releasing, letting go, water. Beautiful, dripping, rippling water. For within that water, we are able to feel. We are able to release and let go. And we thank for the blessings of water. We lift our heads to Father Sky. And we bow our heads to Mother Earth below. For without the earth and the sky, we would have nothing. The two weave together and bring forth the heaven on earth that we know in our hearts, our minds, and our souls that we are here to bring forth. And so, with a moment of gratitude, your hand on your heart, thank all of these directions, these blessings and lessons that weave their way in and out of your world and in your life on a daily basis. Thank you. And with that, we bring forth this opening prayer that I'm going to have you say and join with me. Open me to love and wisdom.
Open me to love and wisdom.
To Anna, Yeshua, the Blessed Mother, Saint Germain, and Mary Magdalene, the councils of light. I am yours in service. To the upliftment of all life. As we continue to collaborate. In oneness. So it is. And amen. So I put a little bit of a post out there earlier this
Renee?
Yeah.
I need you to hold on a second. Somehow you got muted.
Oh, that's okay. I did get muted. Okay. So I put a little post out there this week in regards to what inspired this message, and with a little bit of a show of hands. Not that I want to spend a lot of time with it, but how many of you are familiar or have heard of The Secret? Yeah, it's been around a while. I'll take it a little bit further. How many of you have been aware of and heard of the law of attraction? Yeah, okay. So what I want resurrection and how it's so connected to prayer. But the first thing that I want to share with you is what happens to, when we think about it this way, what happens to get in the way of prayer? When we say a prayer, when we want something to happen for us, what gets in the way? So I just want you to hold that in the space of your heart, above, in any way as we go through the rest of this service, so that there might be some ahas, some enlightening moments, some things that bring forth what it is that you're looking for today. And that's another thing is, take a moment to think of what do you want to get out of this service today. So if I were to tell you that the container that we are holding today has to do with the secret behind the secret, what its relationship is to prayer, and then looking at the three principles of ask, believe, and receive. Okay? So, about 2007, I believe it was, I was interviewed for a local magazine to talk about what my thoughts were about The Secret. Now, I was a little bit, imagine this, a little bit of a different type of, like everybody was all for it. They were saying it was one of the most enlightening and amazing books that had, touched their lives and changed their lives. And I'm not saying that that wasn't the case. But when they interviewed me, I had a very different approach. While everybody else was looking at it from a place of, this is such a great spiritual book and it changed my life, I felt it was missing some very key components. And part of it was the spiritual aspect. So what was interesting about that interview is when they interviewed me, I was the only one. And there were I have the picture here. There were 4 or 5 of us on the page, right here. There was about 4 or 5 of us, and I was the only one who was I don't feel the same way that those guys do. And I'd like to share a little bit why that is. What I had said was I really hoped that The Secret would be the springboard for self-discovery. What I had hoped was that instead of looking at all of the things that we could bring forth materially, I was really hoping that we could look at it as a way to bring forth the things that we needed to bring forth spiritually. But I took it one step further, and I'll just share a little bit about it. And then this is kind of all I'm going to say, and I'm going to jump into the prayer part, is what is money, a car, and friends? It's really safety, security. A car is reliability. Friends are togetherness. It's about connections. I believe that we are looking for that, connections. My hope is that The Secret becomes a springboard to a beginning of a long-awaited dream of self-discovery. A journey where we can come together as one to heal ourselves and our planet as well. If we can obtain houses and jewelry and money, then we can definitely use the law of attraction to bring world suffering to an end and bring about peace. And that was back in 2006, actually it was 2007. Now what was interesting about that particular interview is it led me to my very first teaching experience at the local community college. Once again, I was talking about Beyond the Secret, looking at Beyond the Secret. So let's look at that when we think of The Secret. The premise of that is all you really need to do is think about something you want to bring forth in your life, and it's just going to magically appear. Well, we all know that's just not the case. It just doesn't happen that way. It's not that simple. There is so much more involved in that. Does anybody want to speak to that at all? When you think of bringing forth something, what are the key components that we're looking at? What's that?
It has to have feeling.
It has to have feeling, exactly. The feeling is what attracts it to us. Anybody else? What else does it need to have? A vision. Beautiful. Yeah, vision. See, I'm wearing your necklace today that you gave me for Christmas. So, Connie,
I was thinking you have to ask for like what the next action is. You have to ask to be led.
beautiful. What's the next action? What am I being led to? What am I being led to? I love that. So let's hold that in that container, okay? And for those of you here, hold that in that container. I'm going to try and go back and forth here.
Well, don't you have to energetically be in that vibration?
Beautiful, beautiful. Energetically in the vibration. Okay, so how is that related to prayer? And this is where this just gets so ooey gooey to me, because once we give it in the form of a prayer, once we have a request, once we have some kind of thought, something that we are looking to change, some way to release and remove the pain and suffering in our life, we look at it as prayer. And so let's look at this in terms of what a prayer is, okay? One, a solemn request for help. Sometimes we are on our knees requesting help. Sometimes we are just putting our head up to the skies and the heavens and saying, please help me. Sometimes we are crying at night in bed and saying, please help. And sometimes, which I don't even realize, is we could be in such frustration and such anger that we are asking for help when we don't even realize it, because what are we doing? We're trying to do it ourselves. We're trying to fix it ourselves. We're trying to do it ourselves. So the other thing that we look at with prayer is it's a form of thanks, addressing God, the universe, the field. So when we think of it as a blessing, as a blessing of thanks, oh my gosh, how many times do we say thank you for providing food on my table, thank you for going to the neighbors and taking care of the neighbors. It's sort of like we become this conduit for not only the prayer but the thank you, the blessing. So think about that for a moment. We look at prayer as two different ways, as a request, and we also look at prayer as thank you so deeply. So I want you to take a moment and I want you to look at, maybe this week, maybe today, maybe recently, but take a moment, as like Stephanie said, the vision, and imagine in your mind's eye what you are thankful for right now, and think of it as a blessing, think of it as a prayer. I'm going to take a moment and say I'm very thankful for you, Kelly, here on the Zoom, because this was my very first time doing Zoom, and I realized, and I'm putting it out there because I'm very transparent, the whole time yesterday when I was struggling with this, and I mean I was struggling with it, it took hours to do this, to try and fix this and get this all right, I didn't pray once, and I realized that this morning, and I'm like, I didn't pray once, and I was like, wow, but you know what, I am praying now, and I am saying thanks. I may not have asked for help yesterday, I may not have said, please get me through this. Instead, no, because it was technology and I was bullying through it and I was trying to get it done and it drove me nuts. And I was so thankful this morning when I woke up that Kelly, you came to my rescue. So I'm giving thanks in a form of prayer out to you, Kelly. So now, if we look at both of these as a form of prayer, one is giving thanks for something that has occurred, usually an answer to a prayer. Another is asking for something, or we can think of it as a petition for something to occur, a petition for prayers. Simply put, prayer is how we address the field. It is actually a mirror. Now, I want you to think about this. This is so beautiful. Prayer is actually a mirror of what is going on inside of us and what is going on outside of us. Not only individually, but also collectively. So, as Leela was saying, it's the feeling that we have. So, if you were to, and I'll be very transparent, if you were to walk in here yesterday, and I was sitting here, I wasn't sitting, I was standing here at this computer, on this laptop, trying to upload it, download it, get Zoom, do all that, and you walked in here, you would have been feeling my angst. You would have been feeling my frustration. You would have been feeling that. And why would I want to do that to anybody, right? Isn't it so much easier to say, oh, I don't want you to feel. I have been talking to people for days upon days, and the prayer list keeps growing and growing. as in each one of you here, each one of you here, that becomes the answers to the prayers. That becomes the answers to others' prayers. Just as you become an answer to God's prayers. And I'm going to explain that in a moment. Let me say that again. Think of it this way. God sent each one of us here on this planet to help each other and to help ourselves. So think of all of the prayers that we are answering and doing in service for God. So each one of you here becomes an answer to others' prayers, just as you become an answer to God's prayers. How many times have you heard, "You are the answer to my prayer"? Or, "What you showed me alleviated pain and suffering. What you gave me was what I was looking for to get me out of that place of angst. It was the answer to my prayers." So what if God was able to say that very same thing? You are the answer to my prayers. You are doing the work that I have asked you. If it is hard for you to conceptualize that, what if Jesus was standing right here, right now, in this space, and was saying, "You are the answer to my Father's prayers," as a mouthpiece for his work. You are the brethren that my Father speaks of in his house. What kind of message does that take on for you? You become rewarded with the riches of gold. You don't become rewarded with the riches of gold and silver. As when we think of riches, we think of gold and silver and the material things, such as what The Secret had kind of shown us. But instead, we get the keys to the kingdom of heaven. That is worth more than gold and silver combined. And it's here. It's in our heart. It starts here when we can open the heart. What was I doing yesterday when I was struggling and in angst? I never once felt my heart. No, I was up here. No, I was here. I can do this. I'm going to do this. This is going to work. I never surrendered. I didn't allow myself to just be okay with what was happening. If I would have realized that maybe 6 or 7 people had been walking in the door yesterday while I was doing that, maybe I would have had a different energy about that. So how does that make you feel when you think about that? A very special treat for you. And what I want to do, because this is an interactive service, is we're going to start the healing circle in a moment. I'm going to ask that you participate as well. Send healing, say prayers, whatever you want as well. But first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring forth an absolutely beautiful exercise that's going to get you in the place of, what is healing, Lord? What do we do when we heal? What do we do?
We grow, we release.
We release.
We make room to bring in the new things that are there waiting for us.
We make room to bring in the new things that are waiting for us. We receive, we ask, we believe. So what I'm about to walk you through, and I'm going to ask that you place your feet on the floor. Because how this came through to me and for me was about the middle of last year. And as most things, and I'm sure you guys here, as well as here in Zoom, have this way of waking up at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, somewhere along there. And yeah, many of us do. Somebody has got to remind me, and if somebody knows it here, even on the Zoom, and you want to post it somewhere, there is this beautiful Rumi quote, and it has something to do with getting up in the middle of the night and staying up because the dark has something to teach us, has something to show us. And I don't know if it's necessarily the dark per se, but let's just say there's an energy there.
The veil
Some-
is the thinnest.
What's that?
The veil is the thinnest.
The veil is the
That's that
thinnest,
sign.
exactly. It's when we get in touch with, it's when we actually are on no mode, right? Because we're not doing. We are actually in this receptive mode. And so I think that's where communing really happens. And so for me, for years and years and years, I drag my butt down to wherever I need to with my pen in my hand and my journal, and I journal. And over the last, 1, 2, 3, I'm going to say about 5 or 6 months, through that journaling, as I've been writing and writing my heart out and writing whatever comes through, I have been told to just kind of sit there and I receive healing. Spontaneous healing, spontaneous messages that come in the form of healing, and that's what I think why this part of our service is always so very important. And that is that you become a conduit for that healing. So I'm going to ask you as givers of healing and receivers of healing. This was channeled to me. And whatever feels right for you, this is a transfer. Think of this as the Holy Communion that we never received in regular church. And what that means is we are going to be transferring the body and the blood of the Holy Spirit of Jesus from the heavenly realms to those who are ready to receive it in a way that can be received and understood. So, I want you to imagine right in front of you, eyes closed, Jesus in the flesh is standing right in front of you. Don't push it. Don't conceptualize it in a way that makes it hard. Just allow the vision to come forth. Now I want you to imagine Jesus holding his hand out in front of you to the comfort level that you can withstand. For those of you who are able to take this a little bit further, I'm going to ask that you imagine Jesus moving his hand towards your third eye to see clearly, to break through the illusion that I am not worthy, I am undeserving. Allow that to happen just a little bit. If you need to imagine, there's some beautiful pink energy coming out of that area. Now drop that image down to your heart. Sometimes it's so much easier to see and imagine Jesus beaming this radiant love into your heart. Now I want you to bring your attention to your feet. We all have this image, and it is a truthful image. Whether it's an analogy or whether it's literal, we all have this image of Jesus on the cross with the nails. I want you to see and look at Jesus' feet and yours in relationship. Feet unnailed off the cross with green grass. Feel the green grass underneath your feet. You no longer need to crucify yourself. Now the best part. I want you to imagine Jesus' left hand touching your left hand to activate the receiving part of you. Just allow that to come through. I'm going to sing the bowl for a moment. allow you to take down any messages that you may receive. So, prayers for, and I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I'm going to say the name, but I'm going to say the circumstance around the name with everybody that is experiencing it, because we all know somebody who is experiencing these different things. So, prayers for Turtle, who is looking at hospital procedures and doesn't really know the outcome of these hospital procedures. For all those who are uncertain about these procedures. Prayers for Michelle, who is going through a form of grief. There is a lot of grief out there right now. There's a lot of loss. And there's grief that's coming up from years and years before. We are all traveling together through this roller coaster of emotions. And we're not doing it alone. So prayers for those who are experiencing grief on any level. Victoria for loss. One thing I want to say about Victoria is when she reached out to me to let me know about the passing of her very significant other. They had been together for quite a long time. She had said that she may have possibly reached out to me to marry them. And it was this past summer that they were starting to consider that. Prayers for Victoria and her loss of Will, her significant other. For Maria's friend Diane, well, actually, Diane's family, for Maria, and for Diane's family. I do want to say, though, the beautiful thing about that is there are many of us that are being visited. There are many of us that are being visited by people who are ready to cross over, who are ready to ascend. And when I say ascend, I mean this in the most beautiful, the image I'm getting is the dove, just releasing and flying. That feeling of going to the other side, that feeling of being released from the pain and suffering is unlike anything we have ever experienced at any other time. And so if we are losing precious souls right now, please know that it's their time and that they are being guided on the arms of an angel. It doesn't make it easier for us, but oh, it makes it so much easier for them. And that's what we need to keep in mind when we hold space for these transitions. As we lost one of our own friends here not too long ago. And so prayers for Linda's family, and prayers for those who are still going through that as well. Prayers for Tina and all of those who are experiencing health issues in some shape, way, or form and don't know where it stems from and is trying to get to the bottom of it. Prayers that there's clarity and understanding and knowing. When we activate or try and tune into that third eye, it's being able to look into the shadows, to see what's going on. And that even means in our bodies. We have the innate wisdom within our own bodies. We have X-ray vision. Prayers for Tracy, who couldn't be with us today, as she is with her son, who was in a horrific accident, who is recovering, who is struggling with walking, a young boy in his 20s. Prayers for Tracy and Chase, that those, especially the younger ones, who are struggling with where they fit in, with what they are supposed to be doing. We put so much pressure as a society on these 20-somethings, and they are just starting to get their bearings. Prayers that they are grounded in their sense of understanding who they are and why they're here, and that life isn't a race. Prayers for Peter, who couldn't be here today. He wanted to. Bless his little soul. Peter comes here and has been with us for so long, and he couldn't be here today because he didn't want to take the chances of possibly spreading some kind of, he wasn't even sick, he was around somebody who was sick, and he just didn't want to do that. So thank you, Peter, for being gracious and not coming, but also we send you healing and the strength in your immune systems, the strength in the immune systems all over the world. We need to strengthen those immune systems, and it starts here and it starts here. Prayers for transitions. We know somebody who was retired recently as a bus driver, and I'm just going to say a prayer. Somebody I know, I've known him since I was a wee one. I don't think he was my bus driver, but prayers for transitions, retirement. You know, new beginnings can be scary, but they can also be exciting. And there's so many transitions right now. Those who are looking for jobs, those who have lost jobs, those who are looking to move. Transitions. If, you know, that's one constant in our life is change. Prayers for transitions. I'm going to give you a moment and to speak prayers. Stephanie, would you like to start? Do you have prayers? You who we call by so many names, we thank you for this opportunity to put our prayers out there, to share our prayers, to ask, to believe, and to receive. And maybe not the way that we think we need to receive or we want to receive, but in the way that is for the greater good, that is for all those involved, the greater good. We ask that you hear these prayers and release them up to the heavens to be transformed, transmuted, and transcended, and that they come down as a way of listening very carefully to, as what Connie said earlier, the action steps. Perhaps no action. We allow ourselves to be open to that process. We trust. In your name, we pray.